My name is Ashley Skowski, and I am the Director of Tourism for the country of Australia. Australia is a popular tourist destination, and it's known for its exciting beaches, cities, and the Great Barrier Reef. It has a lot of interesting geography as well as history. In fact, it was originally created to be a host site for British convicts. The prisons in Britain at the time were overflowing, and so they decided to send some of them over to Australia. The geography of Australia, like I said, is pretty interesting. It's the sixth largest nation in the world by landmass. It's the driest populated country in the world, only second to Antarctica. And the territory consists of mainland Australia and an additional 12,000 islands. The population of Australia is 24,899,100 people. There is no formally declared official language, however, English is the most common. The ethnicity is primarily Australian, English, Scottish, and Irish, and there's a small population of Indigenous cultures as well. Most Australians claim that they don't affiliate with any religion, but of the ones who do, Catholic is the most prevalent. Tourism in Australia is an extremely important industry. It's been deemed a super growth industry in Australia, meaning that it's very important for the prosperity and in the future for Australia. Tourism businesses account for roughly 13% of Australia's total 2.2 million businesses. It provided 598,200 jobs and brought in $55.3 billion in revenue. Tourism in Australia can be divided into two different segments, international tourism and domestic tourism. In 2018, 9,066,634 international visitors arrived in Australia, which was up 6% from the previous year. They had a total spend of $42.5 billion, which averaged out to about $5,080 per trip. 38% of those 9 million visitors were newcomers, 62 were returners, and on average they stayed 32 nights per visit. Domestic tourism doesn't get as much attention, but it actually brought in a larger total overnight spend of $67.5 billion. There were 100.3 million overnight visits, and they stayed a total of 362 million nights. Geotourism, unfortunately, hasn't been fully embraced in Australia. Tourism groups are being created to bring awareness to the new sector, and it has allowed more areas of Australia to be experienced by tourists, as well as allowing them to be more educated about Australia's history and culture. The creation of art museums and festivals and farmers markets all offer insights into the lives of the locals, and so that has been different from just the general tourism sector. The effects of geotourism have really been prevalent in rural areas. It has helped to distribute more evenly the visitors from the big cities into the smaller areas of the country. Large cities such as Sydney, Perth, and Melbourne tend to get overpopulated with tourists, and so geotourism has kind of helped spread that out. Also, small local businesses are receiving more support because those who are involved in geotourism are more intentional about sourcing their products from local businesses, and also they point people to go visit those local businesses, which helps them be supported as well. Geotourism also has helped in the sustainability effort. Again, groups have been created that are really trying to emphasize the importance of this. One is Ecotourism Australia. They have provided certifications and conferences to the businesses, but they also help the visitors to be more mindful of what type of attractions that they are visiting, what type of activities they're partaking in, and whether or not they're being responsible. A new geotourism offering that I'm proposing is a genealogy tour. I chose this because as I researched the country, I found that genealogy tourism was not established at all in Australia. They do have national archives and cemeteries, but that's really the extent of the availability of that type of offering. And so I am proposing that they create a genealogy tourism group who creates specialized tour visits. So they can be catered to the visits visitor-specific interests, such as if they kind of understand their lineage and they have specific places that they would like to visit or things they would like to see, then that could be catered. Or if they don't, they could help take them to the National Archives and utilize resources to help them find their lineage. Or they could also just create a tour that's a lot more general and focuses more on the general aspects of Australia's heritage and history. This would incorporate genealogy tourism, but also historical tourism, because of Australia's history. If people find that, their ancestors were sent here for Britain because they were convicts, well, then that would teach them a lot about the history of not only Australia, but also Britain, but the history of that whole process of bringing the convicts over and how those areas were developed and how they got along with the indigenous cultures. And again, if their lineage relates back to indigenous cultures, they could be taken on a tour of an Aboriginal community or something to that nature. And why would this be helpful to Australia? It would be helpful because it would provide jobs. We would obviously need tour guides. It would encourage tourists to visit Australia if they had lineage that they thought they would want to pursue. It would encourage the continuation of authentic Australian culture because they would be learning about it, and it would support the locals by bringing them in to visit these places and to talk to them to learn more about their history and their heritage and their culture. So overall, Australia is a really diverse place. It has a lot of different offerings. Unfortunately, geotourism isn't being fully embraced, but it is on the way and it is slowly being more incorporated into the tourism industry. Thank you.